It's no secret that Frederick Douglass was one of the most impactful activists and leaders during the early civil rights era. But what's not as widely known is his rich history right here in Baltimore City. I sat down with John Mueller from Lost History Associates to learn about the life of Frederick Douglass after joining him for a walking tour experience that he calls The Lost History of Frederick Douglass in Baltimore.
We are here to recognize and honor the legacy and historic tradition of Frederick Douglass in this community. He knew this community as an adolescent and teenager, and following the Civil War, repeatedly returned to Fells Point.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think Douglass in Baltimore? Let's start there.
Frederick Douglass has his enlightenment in Baltimore. I mean, he has his intellectual, personal, social, even religious kind of enlightenment in Fells Point.
During the tour, we stopped at locations in Fells Point that were significant to the life of Frederick Douglass, like South Wolf Street.
These homes stood here when Frederick Bailey was a young enslaved person in the neighborhood. When Frederick Douglass was working as a ship caulker, it is possible that after work he walked with his friends back to 612, 614 Wolf Street. Okay. John W. Locks, who Douglass knew in childhood, lived on South Wolf Street.
John W. Locks maintained the company of other black civic leaders. He was an entrepreneur, and he embraced the advice that Douglass would give to the black community to earn and save money, to educate their children, and to become politically involved. We also visited South Dallas Street, or formerly Old Strawberry Alley.
We are on Dallas Street, okay, Old Fells Point. Okay, this is an area that its psychogeography is very closely associated with the historical spirit of Frederick Bailey and Frederick Douglass. He knew this community in the 1820s, 1830s, and he returned in the 1890s to build these 5 houses that we have right here.
While the story of the civil rights movement is one filled with so much strife, the walking tour highlighted something inspirational: the positive experiences and achievements that Frederick Douglass had and made despite the restrictions for colored people in his time.
Every day is Frederick Douglass Day, baby. Every day. Every day.
You talked about how the tour itself is an opportunity to showcase almost a more positive side to what we view the civil rights movement to have been. It's different from what we're typically exposed to.
The communication of this positive history and the importance of Fells Point to Baltimore, it may help for Baltimoreans, Marylanders to have more of an emotional investment in their community, where as you know, Frederick Douglass was able to use the individuals, institutions, and experiences in Fells Point to springboard himself, I mean, not only to freedom, but then to become, a powerful abolitionist and orator, tell his life story.
John says that in Douglass's time, he was able to build a network of significant black leaders, like Principal Fanny Jackson Coppin, who he is said to have known for more than 2 decades. He worked closely with many of the early founders of the Centenary Biblical Institute, which would become Morgan State University. Douglass even went on to open his own institute on 210 East Lexington Street.
Legally, he's not a citizen, or the 1820s, 1830s. There are significant legal restrictions on the ability of black folks and groups to gather, and there's very restrictive laws, but in this, Frederick Douglass is still persevering. By recognizing the local history of Frederick Douglass, I think it inspires us to have a greater emotional investment in our community, in living in Baltimore, working in Baltimore. It is our heritage that we inherit, the Frederick Douglass history, and I think that we can draw from Frederick Douglass's spirit and be better stewards in our communities.